I got it. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining. We're going to go ahead and today we have Gaylan Hendricks on talking about cancer plans and why you need to have this conversation with everybody that you speak with. So, Gaylan, floor's all yours.
Thank you. Well, welcome everybody. Hey, what you do is hard. Let's just go ahead and say that up front. But the pleasure that we get of serving so many that are in the most underserved markets in our country is just an amazing gift. So I want to thank you for what you all do. One of the things that Amanda and I are very passionate about are our seniors and our veterans. And I will tell you right now, 90% of you on this call know more about what veterans need in the way of health insurance than the Veterans Administration. So pat yourselves on the back and give yourself a big yeehaw because you are serving, and I am so glad to be part of your group. One of the things, though, that I have figured out in all of this last 4 years, almost five now, since we launched Queen of the Bundle in 2020, is that so many agents find this difficult. First of all, I want you to all write this down. This is not difficult. This is service. Think about when you walk into an iPhone store, and I'm calling it an iPhone store. A lot of people want to call it an Apple store or an Android store, but the truth of the matter is you're walking into an iPhone store. Have you been in an airport recently and watched a young mom with two or three kids and they're running around like heathens? I live in airports, as Amanda knows. And then you've got the infamous mom who's let one of the kids have her phones. Her phone's missing. Oh my gosh, it is the most major freak out in the world. But the kids, she doesn't look to see if she's got all three kids. She's looking to see where the phone is. And I make light of that. Obviously, all moms are worried about their children, but we've all become so obsessed with phones. We don't care what they cost. We don't care what it takes of our budget. And it doesn't matter if you're 20 or if you're 80. Everybody's going to pay what it costs. Now, I'm going to reiterate that. They're going to pay what it costs to get this right here. And every time you walk into an Apple store or an Android store, you're never just walking out with a phone. You're walking out with 3 to 4 items and you don't blink. You walk into a hairdresser. They ask you for $200 to $250 to color your hair. You don't blink. Neither does grandma and neither does the 20-year-old. They all find the resources. So the very first question you need to ask your clients, and this is a write down moment because you will not retain it if you don't write it down. Who helps you make your financial decisions? That is a very important question because that question is going to come back when this client is 1 out of 2 men, 1 out of 3 women, 87% over the age of 50 that are going to be affected by a cancer diagnosis. And if you don't ask them when you sit down with them, who helps you make these financial decisions, there's no way you can service your client properly. Because what's going to happen is when that client gets diagnosed with cancer, you're going to get the call because the client is going to say, hey, they're asking me for this thing called MOOP. They might as well be saying the word poop. They don't know what that means. Only you know what these acronyms mean. So take a pause there for a minute and let's talk about another one of my mentors. Y'all, my 4 mentors, I've only met one of them, and it was from a distance in Sunday school class. But let's talk about the second mentor. The second mentor is Sam Walton. He believed if you can't buy it at Walmart, you don't need it. How many of you have sat at a Walmart doing PDPs or getting clients for Med Advantage? Because Walmart nor the pharmacist can explain health insurance. So the next question after, who helps you with these financial decisions? What are their names? What are their phone numbers? Then the fourth question you're going to ask, what is your health insurance budget? When you worked, you had a health insurance budget. What was it? Most of these clients may still be working. Most of these clients that you're talking to should be under 65. The difference between you and the one-hit wonders you all want to blame on TV from stealing your business is that you have the opportunity to start working clients at age 50. What is the difference between you and this client that's going to the 1-800 number, that watches the green commercials every time they watch a Hallmark channel? The difference is you are an advocate. Write that down. I am an advocate for seniors and veterans and pre-seniors. Pre-seniors are people that need to be buying our products before they turn 65. Now let's pause there, because you need to start being Walmart. Your client needs to buy every health insurance product they possibly can through you. That is what scales your business. My third mentor, Warren Buffett, says the only great business is not a replacement business. If you're constantly replacing policies, how are you ever building and scaling? When you're in a building business, that is when you become successful. Warren Buffett believed in people that bought a house from him should also buy rental properties from him, and health and homeowners insurance through him. Building business. The fourth mentor, and I actually got to meet this person from afar and have gotten to work with his son, Zig Ziglar. Zig Ziglar simply says that if you do enough good things for others, you will be blessed. When you build packages of protection and solve problems, then you become their advocate. So I want you to remember who you are, what you are. You are more important to your clients than their medical doctor. Another write down moment. Doctors don't work for free. They're paid based on the products that you provide their clients. So when I asked you to ask the client, who helps you make your financial decisions? This is not high pressure selling, you guys. These are common objections that keep people from buying a cancer plan, which is the biggest hole in a Med Advantage client's health insurance budget. Package of protection is what we built. Yes, Queen of the Bundle sounds really cute and all. They use bundling all the time all over TV, but what does that mean? That just means I'm paying out more money. No, we build packages of protection. So if you say, who helps you with your financial decisions? And they say, nobody, I make all my decisions by myself, on my own. Fantastic. You just overcome these three objections in placing this client into a cancer plan. And we want to do it now. We don't want to do it 3 months from now. We don't want to do it 6 months from now. Because guess what? Cancer is not prejudice. It does not age discriminate. It does not care what the color of your skin is. It does not care how you identify. It does not care your age. It happens. And when it happens to our clients that have zero premium plans, they now become a burden on their adult children, because their adult children will do whatever it takes, trust me, I've been there, to keep them alive. So I want you to think about this for a minute before I get into this presentation. I want you to think about the 4 times, 5 times truly, when a client has a zero premium plan that they are going to pull money out of pocket. This is how we build packages of protection. Mrs. Jones, and I started using this last year when everybody got freaked out over what was going on in the Med Advantage world. We started selling more Medicare supplements because we started selling adult children the concept of, would you rather fill in the MOOP or would you rather split the premium of a Medicare supplement? And we do that by thank you letters. We do that by declination forms, which at the end of this call, Amanda will be sent the new Queen of the Bundle credential package. It will have all of these things we're talking about today. She's my partner. We'll share. There's no $59.95 that you're going to be sending me to a Zelle account or having to come to a behind the agency or to go do this or that. And all of those folks are great and they all have great business models. But I just celebrated 40 years in this business and I've taught most of the people that you guys are paying. They will tell you that they followed me. They will tell you that they learned from me. So if you'll just take some notes, you will be on the way to scaling your business. The first thing, though, you've got to remember is, why do I need these packages on myself? Let's go back to that 4, maybe 5. The client is sitting in their home. You sold them a zero premium plan, or maybe they bought it from the one hit wonder. They're feeling a pain in their chest. They call 911. They get an ambulance to the house. They take the ambulance to the hospital. What is their Med Advantage going to pay on that ambulance ride? Some, maybe none, but we know for sure they're going to have a copay. So that's the first time. The second time, they get into the ER. They haven't been admitted yet. They're waiting on that 48 hours or 2 days. They're going to have an observation stay. Who's going to pay for that observation stay? I created more leads sitting in an ER with my mom. And I know some of y'all are thinking, where is this going, Gaylan? Where are we getting to the cancer plan? A lot of you have all of these tools in your toolkit and you've never pulled them out. This is how you use this. This is how you pivot it into your presentation. This is how we position it. And then this is how we transition into getting something a lot of you have never done, and that's getting bank account information, because you've only sold zero premium plans. So then we go in, we have an observation stay. How does that get paid? Then they finally get admitted and they're in the hospital for 2 to 3 days. They might find out during that time they've got a cancer diagnosis, but now they've got hospital copays. That's going to cost them money. Then they go into an assisted living facility, nursing home. Maybe they're having to go to an oncology clinic. That results in a cancer plan opportunity. That might result in a short-term recovery care opportunity. The OmniFlex with Manhattan is fantastic. And then, Lord forbid, they might pass away. And we're not even talking life insurance to our client, because you as the agent goes, well, I can't bring that up during scope of appointment. What are you doing the other 46 weeks of the year? Yeah, 6 weeks, you're working your butt off. But those other 46 weeks is when you're scaling your business. And my friends, if you don't have these plans on yourself, write yourself today. But let's zero in on the cancer plan for this soundbite. If you're not convicted that every one of your clients needs a cancer plan after this, I do not know how else to help you. 1 out of 2 men, 1 out of 3 women, 87% of cancers are diagnosed in people ages 50 and older. You know what the difference is when you write a customer at age 50 or get a client at age 50 versus the one-hit wonder? You're making 15 more years of renewal income over your competition. If you don't know how to do that math, get in touch with your FMO. Find out what you're paid on these products. It's huge. Now, I want to slide over to something in just a second. Right there, homeowners and auto policies. Everybody's got it. Why? Because they're told to. If they have a bank loan, they have to have it. If they have a car
quick
loan,
question.
yep.
What's the other one-hit wonder that you're referring to?
Well, you know who those are. They're the
I know,
infamous.
but it's a question in the Q&A, so I have to ask.
It's the most infamous 1-800 number, people, that y'all love to blame on stealing your business. But it's also that agent that might be sitting next to you at Ms. Medicare. They may just be taking your Med Advantage client because guess what? Until we stopped this hellacious phone calling crap where everybody was calling everybody 29,000 times a day, the one that was in there last got the client. Why not the one that got in there first, that serviced the client? That's the way it used to be, y'all. I just celebrated 40 years. That used to be the old way of doing business because it was the right way. So let's stick with that for just a second and focus on this slide. You've got 0.04% of the time, 0.06% of the time that people are filing on their homeowners and auto policies. But if you'd have sold this same statistic pool of 5,000 clients, ages 18 to 89, and believe me, there's always a spouse in the house. I trademarked that for a reason. They all have children. They all have grandchildren. They all have nieces. They all have nephews. And when you show this infamous slide we're getting ready to show you on the Aetna rate sheet that we've used forever in this office, our selling system is in writing and all these credentials that Amanda will have. But 40% of this stat pool would file on a cancer policy, and you're not even bringing it into the equation. Shame on all of you if you're not. Shame on you for not having one. 70% of the time, you're going to file on a long-term care, short-term recovery care, OmniFlex, 100% of the time on dental. On MA plans, carriers have told me the average out-of-pocket for a client with an MA plan is $700. You've got to remember, these seniors you're serving, they've already made all the money they're going to make. And y'all go, well, I don't want to bring a dental into the equation. That's not really worth the money. It's, $34 for $1,000 benefit. Guess what? If you got a tooth throbbing out of your mouth, that client's going to take a care credit application from that dentist. If you don't have enough leads right now, go start networking with your dentist and tell them to pull that care credit out of their window and put your dental, vision, and hearing in that window. Because now you've got a guaranteed issue with Manhattan for majors. Man, Amanda has all this stuff. She can teach you all that. I'm just teaching you how to pivot, position, transition, pick up business. And then believe it or not, 1 out of 1 people still die. And you're waiting for their kids to call you, the very kids that you left a thank you letter for. When you leave a thank you letter for all of Mrs. Jones or Mr. Jones's kids, and you have a signed declination form that they said no to the cancer, you just covered your butt in a big way, better than any E&O policy will ever do for you. Because when that client calls the carrier and says, Amanda didn't tell me I had $3,500 out of pocket on cancer, Well, yes, I did. I have the declination form where you turned down the cancer policy because you told me you didn't want it. That's how you protect yourself, but that's also how you protect your client. Now, let's pivot on over here. I know I love that word. I got it from friends years ago. But let's look at how to use the rate sheet with Aetna and why Aetna should be your go-to product. Okay. Now, a lot of y'all that follow me, my husband just turned 72. Okay. Now, if he were to buy this cancer plan on his own and buy $10,000, this is really important because you get to use this rate sheet in presentations. Why? It's an approved piece. This is how we sold all the cancer plans we did in this office because you get to use the youngest spouse's age first. This is how you pick up new business. This is how you turn to that spouse and say, hey, you're 60. Who's your health insurance with? I don't have any right now. I retired. That's when you bring in the Manhattan Life Affordable Choice. And you talk to a client about that. You talk to a client about this cancer plan. You talk to a client about writing a short-term recovery care plan right now. But let's talk about the cancer plan specifically. Because 1 out of 2 men, 1 out of 3 women, 87% over age 50. You see how I say that constantly? That has been ingrained in my head since I started selling cancer plans. And there's no rate up for smoker, no rate up for vapors. I talked to a lady that's on this call yesterday. She couldn't get an answer from Aetna. I gave her the answer. If they vape or smoke, they still qualify. And if they get diagnosed with cancer, it's a payable claim. It has to be an internal cancer, like melanoma and on up. It can't be one you just shave off your forearm. It's got to be internal in the blood. But let's go back to this scenario. 72 would cost him $33.15 a month, a little over $1 a day. But because he married me and I'm 61, lots of good reasons he married me. But for Aetna, this is a great deal. We both get $10,000 for $47.61 a month. Now, if you were writing with the competition and you were writing separate cancer plans, you would have to charge that client. Let's go back one. Let's drive here. You're right here. $33.15 for him, $25.50 for her. That right there is roughly $58 because you did the $47. Now you've got the difference between $47 and $58 to talk to them about another plan or increasing their cancer coverage. If that spouse in the house is telling you, I got no coverage, her biggest exposure right now is to cancer. So why not use her age and write them more cancer benefit? Because I can promise you they're both probably most likely going to need a cancer plan. Now, let's say this couple had kids at home. Don't ask them if they want to cover the kids, just add them on. Because this $47, you guys, only goes up $1.25 to $49.06. This is how you also get more clients, because when that adult child turns 26, they're going to get a letter from Aetna that says, congratulations, you get to keep your plan for $5.42 a month. Because you've got them in your CRM, you're going to call them back and say, listen, I'm going to send you a rate sheet and I want you to look at something. We can write you right now for $27.08 and get you $50,000 of coverage where dad was $165. Uh-oh, what happened? Okay, what happened there? I don't know. Okay, there we go. What happened? Amanda, do you still see that presentation?
Yeah, it just came up, so you're good.
Okay.
Just click the slideshow again and you should be able to go ahead and pop it.
Like, what happened there? Okay, so anyway, let's wait on that to populate. That client right there is looking, how much smarter he is to go ahead and buy that policy now. Because why is that taking so long? You see, I was having this conversation with Amanda. I don't have much patience. See, there's something going on here with the presentation. It's locked. Let me go back over here to this and see what happened.
Try the other one that's on the other tab. Go to your...
That one?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Because you have 3 of them open at the moment.
Yeah, because we couldn't get it to work a while ago.
Yeah.
You know, infamous. Okay, this one's populating, I think. So let's just give it a minute. Okay. But anyway, back to that rate sheet. Let's focus on that rate sheet. I can do this really quick. When we've got this client right here and he sees he can get 50,000 for 27 bucks a month versus 165, that's a huge selling opportunity. Plus, he might be married now. So then we want to write his family. His whole entire family is going to be 5783 when your dad was going to be 165. So these are all ways to bring this in. Now, one of the things y'all forget about after you've done open enrollment is how easy this is to write this business over the phone. Let's say that you were in the presentation and everybody always asks me, Gaylan, how do you introduce this during AEP? And how do you introduce this outside of AEP? All right, hang with me a minute. I'm going to talk about during AEP. First of all of these health plans are allowed in scope of appointment. I'm going to say it again because some of y'all don't penetrate that in the brain. All of these health products are allowed during scope of appointment. I got that fixed with the federal government back in 2013. Okay. Now listen up. Here's how you pivot, position, and transition. How many of you know about the disclosure form? Every hand should go up in the room, right? When you're going through that disclosure form, also have your thank you letter out and your declination form. You can do this in person or on the phone. Again, I'm going to say that because y'all missed that. In person or on the phone. When I'm introducing myself to a client, let's say you don't have MA on this client yet. You don't have anything with this client. Mrs. Jones, thank you for sending me your information. I'm going to talk to you about what your options are. First of all, I need a couple of questions answered so I can proceed. Who helps you make your financial decisions when you are deciding on your health insurance package of protection? Stop. Most biggest mistake agents make is keep talking. Stop. Let them answer. What are their names, please? What are their phone numbers? Is it better if we get them on now or we set another appointment with them tomorrow at 2 or 3 o'clock? Because what we're going to go through on this first call is all of the plans that you need in your package of protection. And then I will get you to sign a scope of appointment for me. And in 48 hours, we will call you back and we will discuss the zero premium option that you have available. But first, we want to go through all the things that we can talk about that we don't need your scope of appointment signed for. Once we get the scope of appointment signed, we'll call you back in 48 hours. We'll talk about the zero premium product and we will finalize your package of protection. Now, with that said, what is your health insurance budget currently? If they say nothing, I want that zero premium plan I see. Nobody ever says that. They all say, I want that plan I saw for zero. You all know as well as I do, our seniors are smart people. And the reason we cannot tell them their health insurance is free is because guess what? Newsflash, it isn't. Their health insurance is not free. A portion of it is zero premium. If we were to tell our clients, your health insurance is free, I can tell you, Lord is my witness, my husband would say, what is the catch? Because nothing is free in this world. We talk about the high cost of eggs. We talk about the high cost of gas, and agents will say, Gaylan, my clients don't have money for all this. They can't buy a package of protection. Do you know they're buying more eggs than they've ever bought? They're still putting gas in their car. Everything goes up. So does health insurance. So do cost of staying in an assisted living. And if you've not walked into a Medicaid living facility lately, walk into one of those. Walk into a Kindred hospice versus a hospice that's connected with a hospital or in-home. Know what your clients are going to face. How can you truly be an advocate for your client if you don't know what they're going to face? Walk into an oncology clinic and say, hey, my clients are buying this type of plan from me every day. If they were to walk in here with cancer, what would you tell them they're going to need to pay you? You wouldn't believe how many clients that have had the Aetna cancer plan that have been able to start chemo because they were able to show they had a policy with Aetna. Your clients are going to be a drain on somebody. It's either going to be their bank account or their children's bank account. So, Mrs. Jones, when you have a choice, would you rather Aetna pay that maximum out of pocket? Or would you rather take it out of your bank account or your child's 401k? What I have learned in helping seniors is that almost every adult child would rather pay $1 a day for a cancer plan than to drain their 401k. Now we've pivoted, we've positioned, and we're heading into transition. This presentation works whether you're starting with a brand new client or you're calling lock-in leads. Let's say you're calling lock-in leads right now and you didn't get that client's business. Someone else got the business. That's a great plan, Mrs. Jones. I can offer that plan too. I can also show you what your options are going to be this next AEP. But what I'm mostly interested in today is your package of protection. The agent you did business with, did he go over the disclosure form and explain to you about the 20% of chemo and radiation? If you are that 1 out of 3 women or that 87% over age 50 that gets diagnosed with cancer, what is your maximum out of pocket on that plan? If you'll send me a copy of your card, I can tell you that. Oh, he told me it's 0. No, Mrs. Jones, your premium is 0, not your maximum out of pocket. If you have a give back program, your agent should have built you a package of protection with that give back program. Screenshot me a picture of your card and send it to this phone number. Okay, I've got it. Let me look up this plan. This is what you're going to be out of pocket if you're one of those statistics. Now, when we talk about when we use our plan and we have to pay money, Mrs. Jones, that's a hard thing for a lot of agents to talk about, especially the 1-800 number people. They're just trying to enroll as many people as they can. That's not what I do. What I do is get to know your family. I want to make sure you're never a burden on your family. Well, Gaylan, I raised them. They can pay for that. Mrs. Jones, I know that's easy to say, but that's harder to do. Do you want them to drain their retirement savings? Because that's the only option. Or they can pay $1 a day. All I need to do is get their phone number, include them on this call, And then they know exactly what's going on. If she says, no, I make all those decisions myself, fantastic. We'll get your bank account information. We'll go ahead and enroll you in the cancer plan. But I still want to leave a thank you letter for each and every one of your children so that they know if you're sick, what's coming out of your bank account and what it's for. Agents, your credibility goes up tremendously when you let them and their adult children know that you're leaving that behind. Now, everybody always wants to go, Gaylan, why Aetna? Why Aetna? Well, I don't know about y'all, but when I worked a corporate job, I didn't like going in and asking for a 3% raise. When you're scaling your business, you do what's best for your business because you're doing what's best for your client. If you're doing what's best for your client, it's what's best for your business. Look at this right here. 90% of the bad persistency that GTL, Cigna, and Mutual have, and even Aetna had on their hospital indemnity, was agents loading up one plan with a bunch of riders. When you write 4 separate plans, you're instructing your client at transition. Yes, we're enrolling you in this package of protection. We're using your give back dollars, and we're using $60 out of your personal bank account. Let's say at some point in time, you've got to make a budget cut. Call me first, because what I don't want you doing is canceling a plan that you cannot get after you've canceled it. So call my office. We will go through that. You guys on Aetna got a raise over the last 2 years, and nobody's really talking about it but me. And Amanda, of course, because I'm doing this with her today. But you make 30% more than GTL, 20% more than Cigna, 20% more than Mutual. Why would you not write the plan that's writing the most cancer on clients than anybody else in the nation, and sometimes carriers combined? Now, I want you to listen up and write this down. In the summer of 2024, we had 3 record months on cancer production. In June, we wrote over $2.5 million. July, over $2.8 million of annualized premium. And in August, $2.3 million. That's not Gaylan in a back office signing a bunch of apps. That's agents going out and working their book of business. If they trusted you once, they'll trust you again and again and again and again and again. In December, you guys, we blew all records out. Aetna wrote, well, agents wrote for Aetna. Let's make that correct there. $4 million of cancer premium. When I designed this plan for Aetna back in 2013, they weren't even writing $500,000 a year. In 1 month, we wrote $4 million. The MOOP's going up to 10,160. If you're not writing cancer policies, not only are you not doing your customers a good service, you're doing your family a terrible disservice because somebody else is bringing that money into their household. If you just write one cancer policy a week with Aetna, you make an extra $14,560. By the way, y'all know I don't PowerPoint you to death. This PowerPoint is a Wikipedia. This is 20 years of hard work, blood, sweat, and tears. But you got to know what's in it for you so you can scale your business. When you start building these packages of protection, this is your cheat sheet. Depending on if you're talking to the spouse in the house, if you're talking to an MA client, or you're talking to a Med Sup client. These are the way people buy. This isn't the way they should necessarily buy, but this is the way they buy. So let's go review something really quick before we come off of my presentation and get y'all. You've got to remember that everything you do in each hour of your day should benefit a client, which benefits your bank account. The more they see you helping them, the more they're going to trust you, the more business they're going to do with you. Now, there is a slide here that is something all of you should be working with your marketers on. It shows exactly what you're paid on all of these products. Now, what agents love about this slide is that there is no MA commissions in here. There's no Med Sup commissions in here. There's no ACA commissions in here. And there's no renewal income in here. Why is that? Because you're already doing those businesses. You're already creating those incomes. But you're going to get renewals on all of these package of protection products. Go do the math. If you started getting age data at age 50 and started helping a client out, what you do for that family. This slide will show right here. It shows right here, if you wrote 3 of these packages a week, 50 weeks a year, you make over $500,000 of income. So think about that. Think about what that does. Now, the last thing we're going to do is we're going to show you something here so you'll know how to use this presentation. So many times it's asking for budget. We asked them what their health insurance budget was. If they don't give that to you, say, what was your health insurance budget when you were working? What were you paying? Great, you're going to get a raise, but you're going to have to pay $30, $60, or $90. That's the only way to keep from draining your bank account and letting Aetna pay that out of pocket for you. And we can set that up for $1 a day. What is your bank account number? What day of the month do you want this drafted? The reason we draft it, Mrs. Jones, is because if you're in the hospital, we never want you missing a payment. Okay, I'm going to stop there. We'll turn that over to Amanda really quick, and we'll answer some questions, and I'm sure that'll spur something I've left out. But I want you to all retain in your mind $4 million of cancer production written in the month of December. And the majority of that was written by a life insurance group I train. You know why? Because they don't get any renewals on term life. Think about that. Y'all already know how to do that. You're smart. Okay, Amanda.
Hi. So we do have quite a few questions. Guys, just to reiterate, the recording of this is going to be out on my YouTube channel probably later on today or tomorrow morning. The link is in the comments. So just stay tuned. That'll be out so that way you guys can listen to the replay. So can you talk about if somebody has had cancer and or lymphoma and what's the time period before that knocks them out? And when can they, once they get past that, can they then pick up a policy after the fact?
Underwriting on the Aetna cancer plan is easy. They must answer no to treatment in the last 5 years. Now, going and getting checkups, y'all, that's preventative. Treatment is medication, oncology, radiation, all of that, okay? So as long as they can answer no treatment in the last 5 years, there's 4 states out there that it's in this presentation. That's a 10-year look back, but every other state in the nation is 5-year look back on treatment. They have to answer no to AIDS and they have to answer no to HIV related complex. Okay. That's it.
So we've already answered this question, so I'm just going to verbally say it. The question is the premium for a married couple off the youngest spouse? Is it one premium for both of them?
It's one premium for both of them, and you have to literally put the youngest applicant first on the application because Aetna has other policies out there that goes off of the oldest age. So the youngest has to be first on the EAP. And if you're not doing EAP, me and Amanda can get you doing that very quickly because that's just the way to do business today.
Is a biopsy considered part of treatment? In which states for the 10-year look back? Is having a Gleason score considered treatment?
Okay, so let's break all that down. So the 4 states, I know Kansas is one of them. I don't have the other 3 memorized because there's not a lot of business written in those states, but it's in this presentation. Biopsies. Biopsies are usually preventative, but let's say a client went in 3 months ago for a biopsy, came back negative. You can write that client, no problem. If that client, let me just break this down for everybody that's thinking, because here's what happens. Obamacare is the only insurance you can buy after the house is caught on fire or the car is wrecked, right? So if you've got a client that's saying, hey, I need that cancer plan right now, you need to give them a very good advocate speech and say, most of my clients that tell me they need a cancer plan right now, when we talked about it 3 months ago, have a suspicion. If you file on this cancer plan, Mrs. Jones, and it's within the first 24 months of you purchasing this policy, they're going to order medical records. And if they find out that you had cancer and didn't disclose it, they're going to return all of your premium, period. Now, Aetna is one of the few carriers that pays in situ cancer. What that typically is your stage 1 cancers or cancers that hide and they don't get discovered. So if it's proven to be in situ cancer and the client truly did not know they were diagnosed, that they had cancer, that is a payable claim. But if there is something that they have suspected, they go get a biopsy and then they file a claim 6 months after the policy, that could be rescinded.
How much are that? How much does the rate change over the years? If you go ahead and can you talk about that a little bit?
Aetna has a no rate increase philosophy, meaning none of their ancillary has rate increases. With these types of policies, you can't file that with departments of insurance. So it is in the policy they can have a rate increase. But let's just talk common logical sense why they don't have rate increases. Number one, our cancer plan was not based on a life chassis. There are some older cancer plans out there that were based on term life chassis. What happens when you buy a term life policy? 20 years, you have a rate increase, right? Because you came in really super cheap. Now you're older, they're going to do a rate increase. Aetna does not do a rate increase on these policies because they're not based on life chassis. What we have done is reduced rates on this product because we found out that we could, and we did. And that's why our rates in the senior market are cheaper than our competition. But the other reason there's no rate increase on these policies is because when you buy $10,000 today, if you were to file on this claim 5 years from now, all you're going to get is $10,000. So there's no rate increase based on inflation like you see in MedSup or other type policies like that, like dental, vision, and hearing.
Do you recognize domestic partners?
Yes.
Okay. Does there need to be, so there's no marriage license or anything? They just, I would assume, have to sign the affidavit.
They just
Yes.
sign the application.
If you smoke, you use tobacco products or vape, do you pay a higher rate? If they're paying higher, what if only one person in the household uses these products?
No smoker rates. We don't have any smoker rates. We don't have any vape rates. And I'll tell you right now, being part of the American Heart Association, they're more worried about vaping right now with all the Chinese chemicals that are in vapes right now. But Aetna has not put any kind of waiver on that. So they are covered just like a tobacco smoker.
Okay, so we're going to go back to the Gleason store one. It says, sorry, I keep asking about the Gleason score because I can't find anybody that's able to answer this for me. This gentleman has a score of 6. He had cancer in the past, but they're still monitoring him. Could he qualify for a cancer policy now?
As long as he has been treatment free for 5 years.
If somebody's had a biopsy that had precancerous cells, can they still pass for underwriting?
So precancerous cells is a double-edged question. I'm going to answer it the best I can. The first thing is precancerous cells, like in an endometriosis diagnosis or in a genetic gene testing, as long as they've not been diagnosed with internal cancer, precancer cells are not internal cancer. They're not in the blood. They qualify. Just like if a client had a cancer shaved off his arm, okay? Had that been not internal in the blood, they can apply for the cancer policy and they will get the cancer policy. We have had a couple of clients denied because of the way they answered a question, but we were able to get them the cancer policy because we were able to prove that it was not internal blood. But those are also not payable claims. So if you go in and they say, hey, this is a pre-cancer, we're going to shave it off, that is not a payable claim.
Okay, so I've got two more questions. One, do you work for Aetna, and do you want to field that?
Everybody thinks I do. And I always say, yes, I work for Aetna every
We
freaking
all
hour
do.
of the
Yes.
day, all of us. But I am not an employee of Aetna. I am what's called their national sales director. I designed this plan for them back in 2013. I was the first proprietor that Aetna did a private brand with. And that's where we are today.
Awesome. And last question, because we have quite a few. How do you sell this with a med sub? You talked about doing it with Advantage plans, but what's the conversation when somebody has a med sub and everything's covered?
So
My
love that
personal take
question.
on this, and then I'm going to have you go,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
that when you're selling this to med sub people, you're talking about the fact that there's a lot of things that when somebody has cancer that you don't think about, other costs that are involved. So, for example, when my grandfather, my great grandmother, and several other members of my family have had cancer, you need somebody to clean the house. You need somebody to do laundry. You've got to go ahead and look at alternative treatments. You're going to have side effects that are also going to need medications, and they're going to need physical therapy and all of these other things that are costs that are not directly covered under the the heading of their medical policy, whether it's a med sup or an advantage plan. The other one is that there's a lot of experimental treatments that if somebody goes ahead and let's say they find a cancer that is resistant and their doctor wants to go ahead and treat with some kind of experimental. Well, something that is classified as experimental cannot be covered under the supplements and everything else. This plan steps in so that they're not paying out of pocket. But I can tell you for my family, it was to help with all the day-to-day stuff because we needed to bring in extra help that we had to pay for.
Why do you think Lyft is offering a Silver Wings division? Because a lot of seniors, their adult children are doing all they can do. But sometimes, just like I had to get Dan over to an eye visit in Dallas, my kids were tied up. Riley was at school. I was, God knows where I was. Anyway, I called Lyft and they got him there and they give you a discount. So I want to expand on what Amanda just talked about there. Experimental treatment and nausea drugs. You know, we talk about nausea drugs. The IRA right now is taking care of a lot of the prescription nausea drugs, but there are a lot of over-the-counter nausea type drugs or experimental nausea that is not covered on any of their health insurance. The only way they get that paid for, acupressure, acupuncture, massages, are those covered on Med Advantage or Med Sup? No. So now you have a way of covering that. But let's take it down a step further. Let's say you're talking to a client where the house is mixed. You got an ACA client or you got a client with no health insurance and a client on Medicare. But it's the client with no insurance that gets sick. Because you use their age and put in a lot of cancer protection there, they've got cash to negotiate treatment. And that's a big deal There's a short-term medical company out there that was using the terminology bridge to Medicare. And boy, have they gotten in trouble over that, because bridge to Medicare, if you're a short-term medical policy and you've only got 6 months of guaranteed issue coverage or guaranteed coverage in the state of Louisiana, and even if you get 3 terms, you don't have a bridge to Medicare. Your only bridge to Medicare is guaranteed renewable product. Okay. Here's another thing. A lot of you were writing in dual markets, and I'm not just talking SNPs. I'm talking dual, where a client has Medicare for their health insurance, but Medicaid for their living. You can write $5,000 of cancer coverage because you're going to be able to stipulate what they did with that $5,000, whether it was taking them to get them rides, having their adult children coming in and taking care of them, alternative treatments. Medicaid doesn't want to pay for that. That's why they keep ripping it out of the benefits. But they don't mind it as long as you can substantiate it on a Medicaid application. But it has to be for that client's welfare. It can't be Chickapoo Casino, and it can't be Del Frisco Steakhouse or sneakers for the kid that's taking care of them. That will cost them their Medicaid. But if you can show where they truly are benefiting from it from medical healthcare points of view. I know I had to fill out those applications for my mother, and you fill them out every year. But that's why I say don't write over $5,000 on a SNP or a Medicaid client. Now, a client that's not on Medicaid, they can use the money for whatever they want. So if they want to fly in a kid from New Jersey to take care of them in Texas, I had an Aetna employee call me one Christmas, him and his wife crying, thanking me, because they had no money in the bank to fly him to Plano, Texas, because they spent their money. They lived beyond their means. But they were so grateful they had a $50,000 cancer plan to get to Plano. That's what you do for these people. You talk about the best Christmas present I've ever gotten. I hated he had cancer, but it made me feel really good he took a cancer plan on himself. I mean, that's a big deal. He lived because of that. Now, you can't save everybody's life by a cancer policy, but sometimes you do. And what a great gift.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, we are at time. Gaylan, thank you so much for going ahead and taking the time to go ahead and educate us on how to have the conversation with your clients about this product. For those of you that did not read in the chat, if you need the contract, it is the Aetna Senior Supplemental Contract is what you're looking for. You can ask your upline, your FMO for it. Or if you don't have one, you can email contracting at Medicare Answers Now to grab the contract. Because we have it, we offer it, and we'll teach y'all how to do the bag of tricks. So Gaylan, thank you for your time. I will see you in a couple of weeks, which I cannot wait. And thank you everybody for joining in. I think we topped out at a little over 100 at one point. Wonderful. So thank y'all. Have a great rest of your afternoon, and I will talk with y'all later. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.